tea-burning monument. What I thought I'd do today, I'm supposed to give this this is my publisher speaking, not me, although it's partly me. We have books here. If you haven't gotten a copy of the book, they've allowed us to sell them for 40% off. The book is really overpriced, so 40% off is $25. So if you're interested, I'm happy to sign copies, and that's all I'll say about the actual sale of the book. And I'll talk more about Fithian here. I'm not much of a salesman by nature. What I want to do today, in the short time I have with you, is some of you. Let me just take a survey. I always ask this wherever I talk about the book. I ask, how many of you have ever heard of Philip Vickers Fithian? Just raise your hand. I mean, yeah. I was in the Northern Neck the last 2 days in Northumberland County, Westmoreland County, with a Carter plantation where Fithian worked. And I asked the same question. Every hand in the room went up. Here's the second question I asked. How many of you have actually read some of his journals? Okay, again, a good percentage. Northern Neck, same thing. Hands went up in the air. I've done 3 talks down there since July. It's amazing how much they know about Greenwich and about all of you down there. I remember one person saying, "You mean you've been to Greenwich?" I said, "Yeah." That's where he was from. So a lot of the historical community down there sees sort of making a pilgrimage up to Greenwich as a big thing that they have to do in their life because of Philip Vickers Fithian and all that he's taught us about the plantation life in colonial Virginia. So what I want to do is I'll talk a little bit about why I wrote the book very briefly and what the book's sort of my focus of the book. I'll say a little bit about Fithian's biography, although most of you are sort of aware of it. I'll be brief in that, but we have to introduce this guy. And then what I want to do, since this is a commemoration of the Greenwich tea burning, or at least a monument, I want to talk about how Fithian would have felt about, or how he interacted with the American Revolution. I'll talk a little bit about the tea burning, but I want to talk about his experience in the American Revolution, how he became a patriot, and how perhaps many of those involved in the tea burning thought about their patriotism and so forth. So let me do that. Again, this book can really be read in 2 ways. And I'm finding as I go around speaking about the book and I'm reading reviews of the book that are slowly starting to come out, I've noticed that people are reading the book in 2 different ways. On the one hand, people can read this book as a biography of Philip Vickers Fithian, a biography of this relatively unknown outside of the northern neck of Virginia and southern New Jersey diarist, a man who wrote a diary that's incredibly rich in its descriptions of everyday life, both in Virginia and here in the Cohansey region. So again, you can start with, I pick up the story in 1765, 1766 when he starts writing in his journal, and I go through his death, up to his death in 1776 with the Continental Army in New York City. So you can read it that way, and I hope people will read it that way. I think you can also read the book as using Fithian's life as a sort of window into the larger revolutionary period as a whole. There are times in the book where I divert a little bit from Fithian's biography to explain the larger social and cultural context of the times in which he lived. So I talk about the American Revolution more broadly in the book and how Fithian responded. The last chapter deals with the battles of Long Island and Harlem Heights, those battles that Fithian experienced firsthand and wrote about in very specific ways. So you can view it that way too. I mean, it's really a book about the American Revolution, the era of the American Revolution, roughly, right? The Boston Stamp Act starts in 1765, and that's roughly around the time that Fithian starts to write. And Fithian dies in 1776, just about as the revolution is underway. So when I use this book or talk about Fithian with my students, for example, I often use his life as a way of sort of thinking about this period, this coming rising of the American Revolution. So, a little bit about the bio. This will be review for some of you. Forgive me if I'm repeating things that